Scorpio, there's someone in your life who seems harmless, even helpful. But what if I told you they're the reason you've been second-guessing yourself, struggling with money and feeling emotionally exhausted? Your intuition has been whispering, but you haven't fully listened until now. Someone whose name starts with the letter D may be manipulating your energy in ways you haven't dared to admit. And the cost? Your clarity, your power, your blessings. Stay with me, because once you hear this, you won't see them or yourself the same way again. Scorpio, you've felt it, haven't you? That subtle, creeping discomfort that something in your world is off but not loud enough to name. It's like an invisible weight resting on your chest, a quiet interference threading through your thoughts, decisions, and even your energy. You've tried to shake it off, to be logical, to tell yourself you're imagining things, but deep down, your intuition knows better. Because no one reads energy like you do. No one feels the shift in the room like you do. And recently, the energy around you has been clouded, foggy, uncertain, tense. There's someone in your life, someone whose name starts with the letter D, who has quietly slipped under your emotional radar. They come across as kind, supportive, maybe even vulnerable. They say the right things. They show up at the right time. They ask the right questions. But something about them never quite settles in your spirit. And that's because behind the carefully chosen words and well-timed affection is a subtle pattern of control. You leave conversations with them feeling smaller, a bit more doubtful, a bit more anxious about your next move. Your motivation wavers. Your goals feel blurrier. You start questioning whether your instincts are overreacting, whether you're just being paranoid. But let's be clear, Scorpio. You are not being paranoid. You're being warned. This person isn't just taking up space in your life. They are draining it. Emotionally, mentally, maybe even financially. And you've known it for a while, but you've been too compassionate, too loyal, too determined to see the good in them to admit it. That ends now. Because this isn't just about them, it's about you. About how much longer you'll allow your spirit to be weighed down by someone who only thrives when you're unsure of your own power. Scorpio, you are not here to shrink for anyone. You are not meant to dull your fire just so someone else can feel warm. You were born for depth, for truth, for intensity, and the right people will never make you question those gifts. But this person, D, they're not one of them. They don't support your power, they dilute it. They don't celebrate your strength, they test it. And every time you ignore your gut in order to protect their comfort, you drift a little, further from yourself. But now you're waking up. Now you're beginning to see. And once Scorpio sees the truth, there is no going back. This is the moment you reclaim your clarity. This is the beginning of your return. So take a breath and listen closely. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a warning, it's a revelation. A message that could free your mind, restore your balance, and protect the future that's trying to reach you. But only if you're brave enough to cut the cord that's been holding you back. Scorpio, let's talk about D. You may already know who this is, or perhaps they're still hiding in plain sight. Either way, this person has woven themselves into your life so subtly that you almost didn't notice the shift. They didn't walk in like a villain. In fact, they may have appeared as a blessing at first, helpful, understanding, maybe even emotionally available in a way that felt rare. But over time, the mask began to slip. You started noticing a strange pattern. When you succeeded, they grew quiet. When you dreamed big, they reminded you of your limits. When you felt strong, they subtly pulled you back to doubt. This is not love. This is not support. This is psychological manipulation dressed in the clothing of connection. D knows just how to position themselves so that you start seeking their approval before trusting your own voice. They may not raise their voice. They may never call you names. But emotional manipulation doesn't always shout. It whispers. It cloaks itself in concern. It says things like, "I'm just looking out for you," or "I don't think you're ready for that yet," or "Are you sure that's a smart move right now?" And before you know it, you're explaining yourself constantly, second-guessing your instincts, asking permission to be the person you were always meant to be. This person knows how to read your moods, but they don't honor them. They study your triggers not to avoid them, but to use them when it benefits them. They sense your wounds and pretend to heal them, while slowly pressing on them when they need control. Scorpio, this is how spiritual and emotional erosion begins, not through obvious betrayal, but through 1,000 tiny withdrawals of self-worth. You start to compromise. You quiet your voice. You delay your intuition. You let them stay because cutting ties feels cruel. But hear this. What's truly cruel is what happens to your soul when you let someone chip away at your spirit in the name of keeping the peace. This person, D, is not a partner on your journey. They are a detour, a test, a mirror showing you the parts of yourself still hungry for validation. But you don't need their validation. You need clarity. You need distance. You need to stop pretending not to see what you already know. Because once you see it clearly, Scorpio, everything changes. Scorpio, your body knows before your mind can explain it. You've been feeling tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but a deeper exhaustion, like something is slowly draining your life force without permission. And the more you interact with D, the heavier everything feels. What once lit you up now seems distant. The things that used to ground you, your rituals, your creativity, your solitude, feel harder to access. You try to push through it. You try to stay compassionate, open, forgiving. But the truth is, this person's presence has created an invisible leak in your energy field. Every conversation leaves you second-guessing yourself. Every interaction pulls you a little further away from clarity. You begin editing your words, measuring your tone, shrinking your light, not out of fear, but out of habit. This is what emotional erosion looks like. It doesn't come with sirens. It comes with silence, subtle guilt, passive tension, a quiet pressure to prove your worth over and over again. And this is especially dangerous for you, Scorpio, because you are an energetic sponge. You don't just hear people's words, you feel their intentions. You don't just experience conflict, you absorb it. And when someone like D brings their chaotic, insecure energy into your life, it begins to seep into your subconscious. Suddenly you're more anxious, more reactive, less trusting of your own intuition. You start to lose interest in things you once loved. You lose your rhythm, your flow, your sense of direction. And that's exactly how they keep you stuck, not through force but through confusion. Because when you're confused, you hesitate. And when you hesitate, you don't grow, you don't leap, you don't evolve. Scorpio, this is the cost of proximity to the wrong energy. It doesn't just waste your time, it rearranges your mind. And the longer you ignore that, the deeper the entanglement becomes. But here's the powerful truth. The moment you recognize the source of the drain, you can begin to reclaim your strength. You don't need to fight. You don't need to confront. You simply need to withdraw your energy. Slowly, intentionally, without apology. Because your power was never meant to be rationed for the comfort of someone who feeds on your uncertainty. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are awakening. And that fatigue you've been feeling, it's not weakness. It's a message. A call to restore your boundaries and protect the sacred energy that only you carry. Scorpio, let's talk about something people rarely connect to: emotional manipulation. Your money. Your financial flow isn't just about your work or your ambition. It's about your energy. It's about alignment. And right now, that alignment is off. You've probably noticed it in small ways. Projects that used to move quickly now feel delayed. Ideas that once sparked excitement now feel heavy. Even when opportunities come, there's hesitation, fogginess, or worse, self-sabotage. And if you trace it back, you'll realize that many of these disruptions began to intensify around the time D became a consistent presence in your life. It's not a coincidence. When someone is energetically enmeshed with you, especially someone who doubts your vision, questions your choices, or subtly undermines your worth, they create a ripple in your field. That ripple affects how you make decisions, how you negotiate, how you spend, save, and receive. And for a Scorpio, whose soul is deeply connected to transformation, power, and unseen resources, that interference hits hard. Your prosperity is not just about effort, it's about energy. And when someone inserts their fear, their scarcity mindset, or their emotional chaos into your space, your money feels it before your mind can name it. Have you noticed yourself playing small financially, hesitating to invest in yourself, feeling guilty for pursuing abundance? That's not your belief, it's theirs. You've absorbed it. Every time D made you feel irresponsible for dreaming big, every time they downplayed your goals or made you feel extravagant for wanting more, they planted seeds of doubt, and those seeds grow silently, showing up as procrastination, insecurity, and the need for external validation before making financial moves. But Scorpio, you were not born to ask permission to thrive. You were born to create, to expand, to wield. Wealth not as status, but as sacred empowerment. Your money wants to move again. It wants to find you. It wants to flow into the hands of someone who will use it with depth, wisdom, and intention. But for that to happen, you have to clear the channel. You have to detach from anyone who makes you question your right to rise. D may not be stealing your money, but they are blocking the state of mind and emotional clarity you need to receive it. And the longer you stay in their energy, the longer your blessings stay on hold. This is not about blame. It's about responsibility. The moment you reclaim your emotional sovereignty, your financial abundance begins to return. You'll start to feel it, the clarity, the ideas, the yeses that were waiting. But they can only reach you once you release what's been repelling them. It's time to reset your worth, not just in your heart, but in your bank account. Because Scorpio, your value was never in question. Only your alignment was. Scorpio, the most dangerous kind of manipulation doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't strike, it seeps. And the person you know as D has mastered the art of emotional distortion. Not in a way that leaves bruises or breaks the surface, but in the way that makes you question your own reflection. Their control is soft-spoken, disguised as care, cloaked in concern. They offer opinions when no one asked. They second-guess your choices but call it just being honest. They withdraw just enough to make you chase. They show you just enough affection to keep you hoping. This is not love. This is control, subtle psychological control. And Scorpio, because you feel everything so deeply, you've internalized it. You've started to believe maybe you are the problem. Maybe you are too intense, too sensitive, too ambitious, too much. But that narrative was never yours. It was planted. It was cultivated. D mirrors your fears and calls it truth. They feed on your silence. They thrive when you're uncertain, and every time you try to pull away, they reel you back with a small act of kindness or a flash of emotional vulnerability. This is classic manipulation, the push and pull, the confusion, the guilt-tripping disguised as connection, and it works because you're loyal. Because you give second chances, because when you love, you do it all the way. But Scorpio, you must realize something crucial. Not everyone deserves that kind of access to you. Not everyone who sees your Soul deserves to stay. You are not a rehab center for emotionally inconsistent people. You are not a proving ground for their insecurity. You are not here to be studied, tamed, or healed by someone who hasn't even looked at their own wounds. And if someone makes you feel small when you shine, anxious when you succeed, or guilty for growing, that's not love. That's fear. Their fear. And it's not yours to carry. Scorpio, this is not just about reclaiming your mind. It's about protecting your spirit. When your thoughts are constantly consumed by how someone else will react, you're no longer living, you're managing. And your power was never meant to be managed, it was meant to move mountains. D has no power over you unless you keep handing it to them. The moment you stop seeking their approval is the moment you start hearing your own voice again, the voice that's always known the truth. You are not wrong. You are not unstable. You are not hard to love. You are waking up. And when a Scorpio wakes up to manipulation, there's no spell strong enough to hold them. Scorpio, here's what you need to hear loud and clear right now. Setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of clarity. It's an act of self-respect. And if someone, especially someone like D, has made you feel guilty for protecting your peace, that's not love. That's manipulation. You've been taught to believe that loyalty means staying, that love means absorbing, that strength means silence. But that belief has kept you tied to people who don't deserve to hold your energy. The truth is, boundaries are not about pushing people away, they're about protecting what's sacred. Your heart is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your vision, your energy, your inner knowing, they are all sacred. And yet, every time you've tolerated emotional chaos in the name of keeping the peace, you've betrayed yourself a little. Not because you're weak, but because you've been compassionate. But compassion without boundaries turns into self-abandonment. And Scorpio, you've abandoned yourself for too long. You've let the wrong people rent space in your mind, in your emotions, in your future. It's time to end the lease. You do not owe anyone constant access to you. You do not owe anyone explanations for your intuition. You do not have to soften your voice or shrink your fire to keep someone else comfortable. If you feel drained, triggered, or anxious after being around someone, that is enough. You don't need more proof. You don't need their permission to protect your energy. Your healing begins when you stop trying to justify your limits and know you won't always be understood. You may be called cold, distant, harsh. But the people who truly love you will never be threatened by your boundaries. They will honor them because they honor you. And the ones who fall away, they were only there for what they could take, not for who you truly are. Scorpio, boundaries are not walls. They are doors. Doors that only open to what aligns with your purpose, your peace, your power. And every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what heals you. You say yes to yourself. So if D reacts negatively when you create space, let them. If they guilt trip, withdraw, lash out, know that their reaction only confirms why the boundary was needed in the first place. You are not here to regulate their emotions. You are here to rise, and you don't need to apologize for outgrowing dysfunction. Not now, not ever. Scorpio, now that you've seen the truth, it's time to return to your power, not with force, but with intention. Your healing doesn't begin with confrontation. It begins with remembrance. You don't have to fight D or explain yourself to them. You don't owe them a dramatic exit. What you owe yourself is a quiet return to clarity. The first step is solitude, intentional, sacred solitude. Carve out time to be alone with your own thoughts, away from their voice, their energy, their influence. This is where the fog begins to lift. From that place of stillness, begin to write. Journal what you feel, not what you think you're supposed to feel. Let the truth rise to the surface unfiltered. Write about how D made you feel, not just in words, but in vibration. Then, visualize yourself cutting the energetic cord. See the ties dissolving. Imagine your energy returning to your body like golden light. You can do this through meditation, breathwork, even simple stillness. Say it out loud. I release what no longer serves me. I call my power back home. These words, when spoken with intention, are not just affirmations, they're declarations. Your soul remembers its strength. Rebuild your daily rituals. Light a candle in the morning for clarity. Touch the earth with your feet. Play music that stirs your soul. Wear clothes that remind you who you are. Speak only what aligns. Spend time only with those who uplift. Move money only when it feels empowering. Every small act becomes an anchor that pulls you back into alignment. Scorpio, you are the sign of death and rebirth. You've been through darkness before, and every time you've emerged wiser, bolder, truer. This is no different. You're not broken. You've been drained. And now, as you reclaim your energy, you'll feel your power begin to rise again. Your ideas will come back. Your confidence will return. Your voice will steady. And most importantly, you'll begin to see yourself clearly, not through the lens of someone else's fear, but through your own divine knowing. This is your reclamation season. Your reminder that you were never meant to live in the shadows of someone else's uncertainty. You were born to lead, to create, to transform, and the only permission you ever needed was your own. So take it. Take your time, take your space, take your energy, and don't give it back to anyone who didn't honor it the first time. Scorpio, let's set something straight right now. You were never meant to shrink. Not in your voice, not in your love, not in your power. Somewhere along the way, maybe because of D, maybe because of 100 smaller moments, you started to believe that your depth was too much, that your intensity was something to hide, that your truth needed to be edited so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. But the truth is, your presence challenges people not because it's wrong, but because it's real. And in a world full of shallow approval and surface-level connection, your energy is disruptive in the most necessary way. You see what others can't see. You feel what others are afraid to feel. You speak what others only dare to whisper. And yes, that scares people, especially those who are not ready to face themselves. But you are not here to make them ready. You are not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for your own alignment. If someone like D feels threatened by your ambition, your boundaries, or your truth, it's because they've never done the inner work to stand beside someone who refuses to play small. Their reaction is not your reflection. Let that sink in. Their inability to celebrate you is not evidence that you've gone too far. It's evidence that they can't meet you where you're going. And that's okay. You were not meant to carry everyone with you. You were meant to lead yourself, to expand without guilt, to love without losing yourself, to evolve without apologizing for who you used to be. Scorpio, your light was never meant to be hidden behind someone else's shadow. You were not designed to water yourself down to keep the peace. You are not too bold, you are not too intuitive, you are not too honest. You are exactly who you were meant to be, raw, radiant, and ready to rise. And the people who are meant for you will never ask you to be less. They will never fear your fire. They will stand beside it. They will honor it. They will match it. So don't waste another moment apologizing for what makes you powerful. Don't hold your breath to fit into rooms that were never built to hold your energy. If it cost you your voice, your truth, your joy, it's too expensive. And Scorpio, you've already paid enough. It's time to stop shrinking and start expanding. Your soul didn't come here to survive. It came here to shine. Scorpio, now that the veil is lifted, you can't unknow what you know. You can't go back to pretending that the discomfort was just in your head, that the manipulation wasn't real, that D meant no harm. Because even if they didn't mean to harm you, they did. And now, it's time to cleanse. Not with revenge, not with drama, but with sacred clarity. This isn't just the end of a connection, it's the beginning of a return. A return to yourself. A return to the wisdom you forgot you had. A return to the version of you that existed before the world told you to dim your light to be loved. You've walked through confusion, through self-doubt, through the pain of emotional entanglement. And still you're here. Stronger, clearer, more awake. That is the beauty of your spirit, Scorpio. Even when broken, it never forgets how to rebuild. Even when drained, it remembers how to draw from the infinite well within. You don't need anyone's permission to release what doesn't serve you. You don't owe D an explanation, a conversation, or a chance to rewrite the story. What you owe is to yourself, to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, freedom over fear. Your intuition is speaking louder now. Your body feels lighter. Your mind is beginning to open again. And with every breath you take in this new space of truth, you're rewriting your future. The blessings that felt delayed, they're not gone. They've been waiting for you to clear the path. The love you've been craving, it starts with this moment, this radical act of choosing yourself. You've done the hard part. You've faced the truth. And now, it's time to step into alignment with the version of you who no longer settles for almost, who no longer bends to avoid rejection, who no longer justifies mistreatment as loyalty. This is your cleanse. Your soul deep reset. The energy is shifting now, and so are you. From tangled to untethered, from surviving to shining, from questioning to knowing. So let go. Let go of the weight that was never yours. Let go of the voice that made you doubt your own. Let go of D, not out of spite, but out of love for yourself. Because you, Scorpio, are not meant to be defined by someone else's fear. You are meant to rise, to lead, to transform, and now you are free. Let the universe witness what happens when a Scorpio finally comes home to themselves. Let the world feel the impact of your healing. Let this be the moment everything begins again, not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed it. Scorpio. Healing doesn't stop at awareness. It begins with the quiet choice to stay present with yourself after the storm. Now that you've seen the truth and begun releasing what drains you, it's time to rebuild from within. Not by doing more, but by listening deeper. Sit with these questions, not to analyze, but to remember. What does my body feel when I'm near D? What changes in me when I choose distance instead? What parts of me have I hidden or silenced just to maintain a connection that no longer feels safe? Where have I abandoned myself in order to be accepted? And what would it look like to finally come home to me? Let these questions breathe through you. You don't need to rush the answers. You only need to honor what rises. And as you do, speak these affirmations over your life like prayers for your rebirth. I protect my energy without guilt. I trust what I feel, even when others do not. I am no longer shrinking to be safe. I am expanding to be free. I call all of my power back to me now. Repeat them often, especially when the old voice of doubt tries to return. These are not just words, they are declarations. Each one is a step back into your strength, a cord that reweaves your spirit back into wholeness. You are not healing to become someone new. You are healing to remember who you were before fear convinced you to be less. Let this be the moment you reclaim not only your light, but your right to shine without apology. Now you know, Scorpio. The fog has lifted. The drain you felt wasn't in your head, it was real. But here's the truth. Your power never left. It was only waiting for you to reclaim it. And you just did. You don't need to fight D or explain or fix what was never your fault. You only need to choose yourself, loudly, clearly, unapologetically. Because when a Scorpio rises, no one, not even a hidden manipulator, can stop what's destined. This is not just the end of their influence. It's the beginning of your liberation.